Well, we finally made it. Conference Championship weekend in the National Football League. While it may have a different feel than the previous year, 3 of the 4 teams were here the previous year. In the NFC, you had the San Francisco 49ers, and the AFC, you have what we have right now. The New England Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens. These two teams have had some of the best games over the past 3 years, some of the most memorable matchups, a couple of amazing comebacks, some incredible moments. As a football fan, you sit back and you watch these two teams play, and you're just in awe of, how the Patriots offense that puts up 50 points a game, it seems, goes up against the Baltimore Ravens defense, led by Hall of Famer Ray Lewis and future Hall of Famer Ed Reed. Both of them future, I should say. But now they meet for what will be the final time in Ray Lewis's storied career. And let's see how these two teams stack up. The Ravens are a little more offensive as a team this year, considering their offense outranks their defense in points, as New England's does too, but we're used to seeing that from New England. They average 34.8 points per game, while the Ravens average 24.9. The Patriots are first, the Ravens are 10th. In yards per game, the Pats lead the league in that too, 427.9, and the Ravens, not too bad at 18th, 352.5. The biggest difference, though, in these two teams is the turnover margin. The Patriots, plus 25. They may not be a team that you think of in terms of being one of the great defenses. When you look on the scoreboard at the end of the game and you're down by 20 points, well, kind of want to reconsider. The Ravens and the Patriots are different in that the Ravens are more of a defensive team, even though their offense has been more explosive this year. And the Patriots' defense has actually played a lot better, too. They had the second worst pass defense in league history last year. But in points defense, they've jumped all the way to 9th, which is a very impressive move for them. Common opponents this year, the Ravens and the Patriots played 3 teams that were the same. 2 of those teams they played twice. The Baltimore Ravens played the Denver Broncos twice, and the Texans and Colts once apiece. They lost to Denver and Houston, but they beat Indianapolis and Denver in that magical playoff game the previous week, called the Rocky Mountain Rainbow by ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown host Chris Berman. Then New England went 4-0 in those games, failing to allow any of the opponents to be within 10 points when the game's final tally had been shown. Denver, Houston twice in Indianapolis, when they drubbed Indianapolis, putting up one shy of 60. Wow. Impressive. The last 5 meetings between these two teams have been very, very close statistically. If you look at the times that they played each other, the last 5 meetings, New England holds a slim 3-2 edge. But Baltimore got them in the most recent matchup in Baltimore this year, 31-30. That was a game where at the end of the game, they had the field goal by kicker Justin Tucker, the rookie, that not as many people were convinced went right through the uprights. A lot of people are still thinking that might have missed. But that's the only meeting in the last 4 that did not take place in New England. And the other meetings that went in Foxborough, Baltimore lost 3 of the 4 meetings. But Baltimore actually played pretty well against the Patriots in New England, better than many other teams have. And over the last 5 meetings, the Baltimore Ravens average 25 points a game compared to the Patriots' 23. But often in the NFL, it's not so much statistics that break down how teams match up against each other. It's the matchups themselves. Offense versus defense, receivers versus corners, running backs versus linebackers. Those are the kind of matchups we look for. And let's break it down to see, position by position, who has the edge. The quarterback position, you got to give the edge to Brady. 3 rings, 5 Super Bowl appearances, compared to Joe Flacco, who's been in the AFC title game 3 times. Flacco has more wins in his first 5 years as a starting quarterback than anybody in NFL history. That's because his ability to play with a consistent team over a long period of time. But he has matured over the last few games into very impressive victories over the Colts and the Broncos, and especially in Denver. So he's not playing like the quarterback we think of when we normally think of Flacco. Now the running back position, that's not so much a discrepancy. New England has Stephen Ridley and Shane Vereen, 2 guys very capable of getting the job done on the ground. But Baltimore's got Ray Rice and Bernard Pierce. Pierce been a good rookie, but Ray Rice, best running back in the AFC North, one of the best in the NFL. Out of the backfield, whatever you need him to do, he does everything effectively. Now the receiver in the tight end position, even without Rob Gronkowski at tight end, which is a devastating loss for New England, I still give the edge to them in the skill position players. Because I know Baltimore has Torrey Smith, who's one of the best deep threats in the league, and Anquan Bolden, who's one of the most well-rounded receivers, big receivers in this league, and Dennis Pitta and Ed Dixon, 2 very underrated tight ends. But New England's got Wes Welker, who's one of the best pure wide receivers in the game, deep, short, intermediate, call him the slot machine, because when he lines up in the slot, it's almost impossible to cover him. You have other guys like Brandon Lloyd, who's been bounced around the league a bunch, played for several different teams. Deep threat, intermediate, can do anything. You got Aaron Hernandez, who is the second best tight end in the AFC next to Gronkowski. Even though I'm a big fan of the Steelers and love Heath Miller, Hernandez's receiving abilities are just phenomenal. And let's not forget, you've got some other great players on that team as well. Pretty much, you take away any one of Brady's weapons, and he's still going to light you up. They got Deion Branch, too, who they've cut and re-signed a bunch of times. Not because of inconsistent play, but because of roster space. But when he's on that team, he performs. The offensive line is an advantage to New England, particularly because statistically, Joe Flacco's been sacked a lot more than Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady, his line gives him the protection and time he needs to step up in the pocket. Flacco's been hit a lot this year. So a huge edge and offensive line goes in New England. But that matchup does go very, very much into an unstoppable force versus a movable object whenever they play the Ravens, because the Ravens' defense, particularly their line, is structured different than probably any 3-4 defense in the league. Houston, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Dallas, any of them. Because they're incredible in applying interior pressure and not allowing Brady to step up in the pocket. And that's the reason why Brady has not been able to put up, the 35, 40 points on Baltimore that he can drop on any of the other great defenses in the league. He can dissect the Steelers. He can dissect the Packers and the Cowboys. He can't do almost anything against Baltimore because of the way their defense plays. Linebacker position, that really has a lot to do with the fact you got Haloti Ngata, and Terrence Cody, a bunch of really, really, really smart and stout, very smart and stout players on that defensive front. But with the Ravens and you talk defense, you talk linebackers. And I know New England's got Rob Ninkovich and Gerard Mayo, and even the rookie Dante Hightower. Very, very good front. Very, very good defensive line. Very good linebacking core. But for my money, you'd be hard-pressed to find a team in the AFC that's got a better linebacking unit than the Baltimore Ravens. I know they got guys like Jameel McClain, who's very good, and Courtney Upshaw, who's played in a lot. But Terrell Suggs and Ray Lewis, the conversation starts and ends with those guys. Because when T-Sizzle, Terrell Suggs, is healthy, he is without a doubt one of the best pass rush linebackers in the National Football League. Scares the hell out of any quarterbacks he goes against. Then you got Ray Lewis. Maybe the best inside linebacker ever. We'll have to see. But he's up there with his quickness, his consistency, his intelligence, his leadership. Not too many guys are better than him. The linebacking core is a huge edge to the Ravens because the fact that their defensive front will kind of more or less neutralize Brady a little bit means the linebackers can go free. And without Gronk, that's a much less scary proposition for them to go up against without Gronkowski. The defensive backfield, I have to give a slight edge to New England. And it's not the fact that, they play greater coverage, because Ed Reed is better than any defensive back on the Patriots, the free safety for the Ravens. But the Patriots' defense has been a ball-hawking unit this year. They have been able to take the football away like crazy. I mean, the last 3-4 years, their turnover differential has been like plus 25 every single year. And it's a lot of it has to do with the way the defensive secondary plays. I mean, they'll get burnt every now and then, but they're not going to blow their assignments, and they're going to be looking to take the football away. They're not looking to shut you down completely. They're looking to take the football away, and that's why I give them a slight edge over Baltimore. I know Ed Reed's probably the best ball-hawking defensive back maybe in NFL history. But New England's got 4 great guys. Special teams, I'll give an edge to the Ravens because Justin Tucker's had a very good year kicking, and they got the best returner in the league right now in Jacoby Jones. Several big kick returns, and he had the big touchdown last week to tie the game against the Broncos late before going into overtime. So it's a check mark there to the Ravens. And finally, for the head coach. Can you find a coach in this league better than Bill Belichick? NFL Network has done a documentary special. And it's called A Football Life. They have 2 or 3 seasons of it. They talk about certain players or teams, or even certain plays like the Immaculate Reception in depth, and they break it down in detail. But I got to really see, because Belichick was wired the entire 2009 season. It's a 2-part special they did on him. And they were able to see how he interacts with his team behind closed doors. And I was just blown away with the way he approaches his team. Because, yeah, he's a guy your players can talk to, but he's not a buddy-buddy guy like coaches like Mike Tomlin have been. He's a guy that, you can get along with him, you can talk with him. But if there is a problem, he will nip it in the ass. And if not, and if you play like a punk, you'll be gone. Much more respect I gained for Belichick by watching that special. And I know John Harbaugh has been in the playoffs every year he's been the coach of the Ravens the past 5 years. I got to give the edge to Bill in this matchup. Not by much, but still. So the final tally, if you're breaking it by position, the Patriots have an edge 5-4. Now, statistically, is where you're going to see some discrepancies. And you'd think this would be a mismatch on paper. 2 key areas that are very different is that the Patriots offense gives up the 6th fewest sacks in the league. The Ravens give up the 12th most. So that's something New England's pass rush is going to have to do. They're going to have to get the Flacco and make him uncomfortable. Now, the other one is run defense. Baltimore's run defense, I know they've been good the last few weeks. Still not tested. They have not played a running game like what New England has. New England, a lot of people talk about Tom Brady. They're the 7th best rush team in football, 136.5 yards per game. Baltimore hasn't played a run defense that good, run offense that good, in a long time. The last team that really could run really they played against that had a good running game, I got to give credit to, was the Giants, and they pretty much shut them down. So, we'll have to see more or less how well Baltimore handles that running back situation led by Danny Woodhead, Shane Vereen, Stephen Ridley. They got a great rushing attack, three-headed monster up there in New England, and we'll have to see if Baltimore can stop it. The second mismatch is pass defense. Baltimore may only have the 15th best passing attack per game in the entire NFL. However, New England's pass defense has been abysmal the last 3 years, never finishing higher than, I believe, 28th. And they're 29th this year with 271 yards allowed per game. Flacco's going to get some looks. He's going to get a chance to push the ball down the field and make some plays with his arm and let guys like Torrey Smith and Anquan Bolden and those guys make plays. So New England's going to have a hell of a time stopping that passing attack. Now breaking it down, with some key questions, such as, pressure. That's a different story to see what player is under the most pressure. And the guy that's under the biggest microscope in this game is Flacco, because we know what Brady can do. We see what Brady can do. We know what he's capable of. We expect it from him. We don't expect these kind of games from Flacco like he had the last 2 weeks. 5 touchdowns, no picks, averaging over 20 yards of completion. His pass rating of 120 is the highest in the playoffs amongst any quarterback. And you got to remember, Rodgers has been in the playoffs. Brady's still alive. Matt Ryan, all those guys have been Pro Bowlers and all pros. And you have Flacco's got the highest pass rating. He's playing the best football of his young career. Now, if you look at it from a health standpoint, the Ravens definitely entered this game a lot healthier, because you look what the Patriots had to deal with, and the biggest loss for them was Rob Gronkowski, the tight end. Now, his size as a blocker and as a receiver makes him literally impossible to match up with. Last year he set the NFL record for most receiving yards and receiving touchdowns by tight end in a season. Had the greatest tight end season of all time. But a lot of people are going to be questioning, how well will New England's offense play without him? And I think they're going to roll just fine. Think about it. In the 5 games that Gronk missed due to his broken forearm, the Patriots put up 34.2 per game. So it's not like they really missed him that much. It's the 3rd highest scoring offense in league history, and they hardly skipped a beat without him. And they're going to have to see how that works against the Baltimore's 3-4 defense, which has been able to shut down tight ends this year. But speaking of defense, a lot of teams run the 3-4. And a lot of people are probably questioning why Baltimore has more success than other teams, such as Houston, which routinely gets sliced up by Brady. Then you have Green Bay, Dallas, Pittsburgh. They all pretty much get sliced up by Brady without being able to lay so much as a finger on him. Now, look at Baltimore. They've really given him some hard games. They really have. He's not had, smooth sailing against this Ravens defense. Now, if you look at it from a philosophical standpoint, why does Baltimore do better against New England? And the reason is the way their defense is structured. Yeah, they have good edge rushers like Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's the best example of a 3-4 that the Patriots go against. And the only reason, and the number one reason that Pittsburgh struggles against the Patriots is because the interior push that the Steelers' defensive line gets is not very good compared to Baltimore's. Because Haloti Ngata is clearly 3 times better than any defensive lineman Pittsburgh has. Because the fact that he takes up 2 to 3 blockers frees up other guys. With the Steelers, the Patriots' offensive line goes man for man, and they win their matchups, and the Steelers secondary and linebackers can't cover the Pats receivers and running backs in open space. Guys like Gronk, Hernandez, and Welker just tear them apart. Same with Houston, same with Green Bay. Baltimore, it's not so much because their linebackers are athletic and they're quick for their size, very underrated in terms of speed, and their defensive line is able to push right up the middle and not allow Brady to step in the pocket. It's one of those things where, Baltimore's 3-4 defense gives every quarterback different matchup problems. With New England, Brady can't step up in the pocket. The only other team to have that kind of success and be able to do that to Tom Brady has been the New York Giants, and it's the only one really that has beaten him in some of these big games. Because in other games, Brady's figured out a way to beat them. Baltimore's been a team that, New England's defense has had to come to play to win those games, where Brady can't just bail them out himself. Speaking of defense for the Patriots, they're going to have to cover a lot of different guys in this game, Anquan Boldin and Torrey Smith. But for my money, the one guy that they got to watch out for is Ray Rice. Because in the last 5 games versus the Pats, he averages 133 yards from scrimmage. And in the first playoff game they played against New England in 2009, he gashed them for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. So far this postseason, he's 1 yard shy of 200 in 2 games. And the Ravens' lifetime have a 34-11 record when Rice gets 20 or more touches. So giving 27 the ball is the way you want to go. But you have to understand that Ray Rice getting the football, it's not just a great thing for him. It's a great thing for Flacco. Because when you have to have Flacco throw that many passes, you're not going to win a whole lot of games. Because when Flacco attempts at least 30 passes in his career, the Ravens are 24-25. When Flacco attempts less than 30 passes in his career, the Ravens are 37-5. 37 of 42 games they win when Flacco throws less than 30 passes. That is a gigantic discrepancy. So making sure you give Ray Rice the football is absolutely invaluable to your game plan. And finally, what about the other Ray? That one linebacker. That guy he's been to a lot of Pro Bowls, couple-time Defensive Player of the Year. That guy. Mr. Ray Lewis. What impact will he have in what could be his final NFL game? What could it be? And it's going to be the same as he's had the entire postseason. A big one. Let me put it to you this way. The Ravens this postseason have allowed 44 points. The first games since Week 7 that Ray Lewis has been back in the lineup because of his torn triceps. Of the 41 points they've given up, 21 have been offensive. 3 of the drives ended in field goals by Indianapolis, and 2 were return touchdowns against Denver. So defensively, not counting the special teams, they've allowed 10.5 points per game this postseason. So you can say what you want about this Ravens unit during the regular season. The playoffs, they've stepped it up. They have stepped it up. He emotionally has had such a lift on this team. They were the walking dead at the end of the season. They started 9-2, but the bottom fell out and they lost 4 of their last 5. And you don't think that Ray Lewis and his teammates saw the billboard the Pats fans made? No. The Patriots fans in Foxborough made a billboard that said, "Countdown to Ray's retirement party." And the countdown ends at the end of the AFC Championship game. So the Patriots are telling them, your career will end this Sunday. We'll have to see if it does. But thank you very, very much to whatifsports.com. It's a site where you can match sports teams, whether it be historically, whether it be, just you want to customize a team and see how it would do against another team, whatever. Gives you fair and honest results based on how the teams match up, and every simulation is a simulation that was run hundreds of times. I ran the simulation of the 2012 Ravens and the 2012 Patriots with the weather of Foxborough for Sunday factored in and the injury to Rob Gronkowski factored in. I ran it 25 times. The Patriots won 13, the Ravens won 12. On average, the final score was 25-24 New England. The most scored in one game, New England put up 47, Baltimore put up 35. The fewest scored in one game, New England put up 13 and Baltimore put up 10. Alright. Here it is. Final analysis. Who do I think is going to win this football game? Well, I've been thinking about this all week. And it's going to be tough for Baltimore to go into Foxborough to win this. Because New England is so tough to beat at home in January and December. Thanks to the cold, the snow, and of course Tom Brady. However, Denver was practically invincible at home this year. And New England went up there and Baltimore went up there and slayed that dragon. And they have an extra day of rest versus the Patriots. The loss of Rob Gronkowski is monumental, even though the other weapons can help Brady play at a high level. But I've said before, the interior blitz that Baltimore brings, that gives New England so much trouble, is going to be on display again. The fact that Baltimore won in Denver and has an extra day off should be a huge asset to them. And they're still emotionally riding the wave of Ray Lewis's final hour. And, you can say whatever you want. Well, New England's automatic at home, the way they play at home. Not so much. I will say this. Flacco is playing the best football of his career. When Joe Flacco plays good football, that it's almost impossible to beat the Baltimore Ravens, regardless of location or opponent. So, my final opinion is this. Sorry, Tom Brady. Sorry, Bill Belichick. You want to get a shot at a fourth ring together? You're going to have to wait at least one more year. Because the Ravens and Ray Lewis are going to win this football game. Final score, Baltimore 30, New England 27. That's how I see it's going to play out. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back in a moment with the 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons. Stay tuned.